Good morning, everyone. It's oftentimes a challenge for me to really truly express how grateful I feel to you and to this congregation for just being able to be a part of this, just being able to be up here and share and learn and grow and to participate with you in experiencing the presence and being the presence with you. And it's just a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. And well, thank you again. We have been doing some wonderful study and work and learning from one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Eric Butterworth. And Eric is, those who are not familiar, Eric Butterworth was one of the most probably well-known and well-respected Unity authors as well as spiritual teachers. And he spoke in New York City, and he spoke in Lincoln Center. And a few of you have been to Lincoln Center. I know my wife has, but Lincoln Center, and he usually filled that place. He filled Lincoln Center. That's a big place, isn't it? So he had a lot of people listening to what he had to say because he spoke with such a clarity of awareness and truth and wisdom, I think, that really did have such a powerful impact on people. So we've been working with some of his work, and this one is one of my favorites. It's called The Universe is Calling, and the subtitle is Opening to the Divine Through Prayer. And so we've been looking at what he calls scientific prayer. And it is an understanding of prayer that prayer is a way of allowing ourselves to not so much try to get God to do something for us, but to really learn how we can align ourselves with the reality and the truth of the amazing love and light and blessings that the divine is. And then bring that into manifestation as experiences in our life and in the lives of those that we're holding in prayer. And so we're working with the ideas and the principles of scientific prayer because we understand that we know that if this is something that is working upon universal principles, that it's something that is repeatable. It is something that we can do, and we can do over and over again. It's not something that is necessarily that one person can do that nobody else can do. It's something that actually that we all can participate in. And it is an understanding that it is a repeatable experience. I know in many ways, I know that I am actually singing to the choir here because I know so many of you have been working with this understanding for many, many years. But it's always good to have a little reminder and a little refresher of what it is that we know, isn't it? And take it perhaps maybe to a different level, a different experience, a different connection with these awarenesses and these truths. So been thinking about, and my lesson this week is really about one of the things that Eric talks about as a really important part of the scientific prayer process is the practice of meditation. And he talks a little bit about meditation and about what he prefers to use the term the silence. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And so I was thinking about the idea of meditation. How many of you actually actively meditate? You don't have to raise your hand, but just kind of ask yourself the question, do you actively meditate? And do you do that as a part of your spiritual practice? I was thinking about this and came across this story from a Rita alum, and she said after 2 weeks of meditation class, I had acquired about all I had really acquired were stiff joints and a burning curiosity about the woman who was sitting next to me the whole time. At every meeting, she would arrive late, breathless, frazzled, but soon after she assumed her meditation position, she started chanting, 1984, 1984. 1984, and I just saw visibly how her demeanor changed, and she became more relaxed, and I could see even in her face that she became more peaceful. And I was just so amazed and curious, how is it possible? I mean, what is it about George Orwell's book that would help her to be so. I mean, it's not a book of, I mean, it's something that really is kind of disturbing, and how could that inspire such contentment? And so one day after the class, she says, I went to her and I asked her about her mantra. And she said, well, who's talking about a mantra? Who's talking about a book? I'm not talking about a book. 1984 is when my mother-in-law plans to retire to Florida, when my child graduates from high school, when my mortgage is paid off. I thought that was a good story. So whatever moves us into that place of peace, right? I thought that was still a pretty good mantra. And there was a cartoon I saw in Pickles, a comic strip. You guys know Pickles comic strip? Opal's one of the characters and was sitting in the lotus position meditating, and she asked her husband, Earl, would you say I'm serene? Earl kind of looks at her and says, no, not exactly. Not exactly? What do you mean, not exactly? You don't think I'm serene? Well, my mistake, you're definitely serene, and from now on, I'll call you Mahatma Opal. The nice thing about meditation, according to Paul Dean, is that it really makes doing nothing very respectable. Yeah. So, I've been thinking about meditation, and I know that one of the most valuable things about meditation is one of my favorite teachers is Edwin Gaines, and she says the way to overcome gravity is with levity. And so that's I always like to kind of think about it in terms of just really being a way of helping us to release some of the gravity that we are involved in and holding us down perhaps, and that are perhaps keeping us in many ways stuck in a particular place or position. It's a way of really reconnecting, and I saw another cartoon, Frank and Ernest says that I just think of meditation as mental floss. That's a good awareness, isn't it? Mental floss, yes. It's cleaning the energy, cleaning the consciousness. So I've been thinking about what Eric has been teaching us about this, and one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that he talks about how in our practice of prayer, of scientific prayer, it's really important part of that, and that is to go into this place within ourselves where we are truly connected, where we really know and feel that energy and that experience of being connected with something greater, with the Spirit, with the divine. And he says, so to repeat prayer is not like trying to reach for God, not even to reach God. It is giving up the very desire to reach. We have talked about praying to God and sending our appeal to the man upstairs. In this context, our prayer is a performance, and that we put on for the eyes and ears of the divine. However, if we can just get the perspective of the presence, then God is not someone to pray to, but a depth of awareness and energy to pray from. So we're talking about praying from an awareness and an energy and a consciousness of the divine, and being immersed in that, and being immersed in that understanding and that experience. And so a big part of prayer is immersing our awareness and our energy into the knowing of our oneness and our connection with Spirit, with the divine, with something more and greater. It's an inward movement. He goes on to quote, Jesus says, to enter into thine inner chamber, and having shut the door, pray to the Father in secret. And it's the absence of this meditation process, he says, that's been missing in the key from Judeo-Christianity for so many years, that really has been a frustration for many, because it really is not allowing us to really reconnect with that experience of our connection with the divine. And so part of the work here is a three-step process. The three-step process is first to relax and let go. We're going to talk more about this. The second step of the process is to turn inward and to become one with that secret power, to really become one with the presence, to really experience our connection and our oneness with the divine. And then the third step is then to project an awareness of that in our affirmations, our words, our thoughts out into the world. I would say there's a fourth step, and that's to simply receive and experience the results of that, the experiences of that. So we're going to do a little bit more with that today, as a matter of fact. And actually, Russell, I have a request of you. I just realized something. Would you go and look in my office and my desk, and the top left drawer, there's a bunch of cards in there, and we're going to use those, and some pens on the, I think they're on the desk. Thank you. We're going to have a little exercise later. Won't that be great? So when we talk about meditation, meditation is a way for us to really immerse ourselves. And one of the examples that came to me in my meditation is this, that I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is the image that I got was that when we pray, what we're doing is going to the well and dipping our bucket in the well and then bringing out the water of spirit, of the divine, and then sharing that out into the world. And I love that image of prayer. Meditation is jumping in the well. Not only jumping in the well and being immersed in the water, it's jumping in the well and becoming the water. And to me, that's a valuable awareness and a valuable image for me to help me to understand the difference between meditation and prayer. And there's a real value in really jumping in the well. Eric gives a great example that oftentimes when we are in our times of prayer, he gives an example of early on in our history in this country and probably around the world, whenever there was a fire going on, they would form what's known as a bucket brigade. And they would take, and one person would be at the well, dipping the well into the bucket, and then raising the bucket, and then handing it off to the next person, and finally they would get to the fire and throw it on the fire. So Eric said, what if you formed a bucket brigade, and the person at the well never dipped the well into the bucket? I mean, the bucket into the well, and you just kept passing on this empty bucket, and tried to throw that onto the fire. Oftentimes, that's what's happening in our prayers, that we're not really tapping into and tuning into that connection first, and then bringing forth those things. And so that's a very valuable image, I think, for us to understand that when we're in our prayer times, it's really important for us to really go to that source and connect with that source mostly first. And as we do that, then our work, our prayers, the things that we send forth, there's some water to it. There's something in the bucket. There's something to work with. There's an energy there that is something that we're bringing forth from the experience of the divine. And so when we're thinking about that, he also says he likes the term the silence as opposed to meditation. And I'm okay with either one. I like the idea of the silence, however, and for many ways, I think that really does help speak more of, see, when I teach meditation, I have this idea, this understanding that there's a practice of meditation. And that's the things that we kind of do, like we will sit in a comfortable position, we will close our eyes, we'll sometimes maybe put on a little music, we'll start breathing, we'll take time to breathe, and we'll turn inward. We'll begin to do a mantra, perhaps. Perhaps it's 1984 or something other more meaningful thing for us. And that is the practice of meditation. But we oftentimes confuse that practice with what is the experience of being in a meditative state. See, the purpose of meditation, the practice of meditation, is to help us to move into a meditative state. So we don't want to get caught up into this idea that the practice is meditation. I've spent many times practicing meditation and not really been able to change my energy and my thoughts enough to really be in that, what I would call a meditative state. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes when I try to do the practice of meditation, what really happens is that my mind just begins to ramble and drumble, and I jump into the monkey mind, as we say. And I thought about that this week and what we were working with, and Deepak Chopra says meditation is not a way of making your mind quiet. It's a way of entering into the quiet that is already there, buried under 50,000 thoughts the average person thinks every second. So when I was thinking about this, Julie and I recently embarked on a major life experience. And we have just really, something that really is it's just a wonderful experience, a wonderful, profound kind of experience. We adopted 2 kittens. And they're just delightful. They are just wonderful, and I call them our little banditos. And originally, when we first adopted them, they just right away we were thinking about names, and they said you can name them whatever you want to, and I just immediately, what came to my mind was Thelma and Louise. So we now have Thelma and Louise in our home, along with Ruby. Many of you have met Ruby before. And so it's been a real wonderful, exciting adventure, a lot of fun, and a lot of activity and all kinds of things going on. And I just get amazed at these beautiful little kittens and how playful they are, and how really crazy they are, and how silly they are. And it's been fun thinking about that. And as I was thinking about that, it was really kind of realized that for me, I realized that that was a pretty good example of how my mind is sometimes when I meditate. Just this little kitten running around everywhere, all over the place, into everything, curious about everything, thinking. So sometimes my mind is just like those little kittens. And I was reminded that some years ago I had a meditation, and in my meditation, a poem came out. And I want to read to you this little poem that came to me. Have you ever, the name of the poem is Silly Kitten. Have you ever watched a small kitten chasing its tail? I am God, expressing as me, looking for God, expressing as me. And if I finally catch my tail and bite it, will I be happy? Or will I awaken to the painful joy of knowing that all this time, the tail that I am chasing is a part of the kitten that is chasing me? There is an essence and a presence that is in us, that is the very essence of us, that is the very essence of who and what we are. And we spend a lot of time and energy trying to find and get that somehow, when a really big part of our practice is learning how to simply stop chasing our tail, our mental activities, and just simply be that presence and move into that space within ourselves where we truly know and feel that. And when we can do that, we find that there is an energy and a power that does come through us, that there's an energy and a power and awareness of even greater possibilities of good in our lives, in whatever experiences that we're working with or dealing with, and throughout our lives. Eric gives another example, of course, and I think we're going to work with this a little bit later in our meditation time, of just thinking of yourself as a wave in the ocean. It's just as much ocean, even though it's acting as a wave. And so, cowabunga, dude. We are all surfing, and we are the surf, and we are the ocean. And part of meditation is expanding our awareness from being the surfer to being the wave to being the ocean. And practicing that understanding awareness of a greater experience of our beingness and being in that place. And then when we are able to do that, what we find is there are awarenesses of reality and awarenesses of truth that come to us that are beyond the perceptions that we've had in life, that are beyond the experiences that we're dealing with, beyond the challenges that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And there's something more to that, and we're able to bring that energy and that consciousness and awareness into that experience in a way that does shift our own energy, our thoughts, our vibration, so that we are vibrating in a way that we are allowing a different kind of experience to come to us. So that moves us into the awareness and the idea of affirmation and treatment. So we want to talk a little bit about this idea of affirmation and treatment. In Unity, we've taught positive prayer for many years, and positive prayer is a very wonderful and powerful work, and one of the aspects of that that really makes it so powerful is to remember that, as Eric says, that when we do an affirmation, we are not making something true. It's important to recognize that. We're not making something true. We do an affirmation to align ourselves with the truth that already is. And the purpose of our affirmations is to really retune our awareness and our vibration, our energy. In Unity, we call it our consciousness. To retune our consciousness to the reality and the truth that already exists. Last week, we talked about the cosmic counterpart. That which we are seeking and desiring in our experiences in life already is. It already exists. And so the purpose and the power of prayer is not to get something to be made or created. It already is. It's to tune into our energy and our consciousness and our awareness in such a way that we're able to see what already is. What already is. We have within us this reticular activating system. My wife says, you talk about that too much, but it's true. We have this reticular activating system, and what it does is it actually does filter out those things that are not really relevant for us in life. In addition to that, it draws into our awareness those things that we are attuning to. So, for example, have you ever had the experience where you bought something new, a new car, new clothes, new shoes or something, and then all of a sudden you look around and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of those same kinds of shoes. Or there's that same car going down the road. It's like, did they just happen to just pop up and be manifested because you bought one? No, it's awareness. Your awareness is tuned into that, and so you draw more of that into your awareness and you see it more and you experience it more. That is really one of the first fruits of prayer, is an expanded awareness of those possibilities. So we're going to do a little exercise here. Russell, would you go ahead and pass out those cards for us and make sure everybody has a pen and a piece of paper? So we're going to go through and take a little step in working with this idea of scientific prayer and working with creating affirmations for ourselves and our own very own unique prayer treatment. You guys ready for a prayer treatment? So what I'm going to invite you to do, once you get your card and pen, you can do it long ways or you can do it sideways, but make 3 columns on your paper. So draw 2 lines and make 3 columns. Make 3 columns on your card. So you can draw 2 lines, 2 in the middle somehow, and that should make 3 columns, if I have my math right. Correct. Yeah. So Eric talks about basically 3 basic steps or phases in scientific prayer. The first one is to relax and to let go. The second one is to move into that space within you where you are connected with the divine. And the third is to then listen and hear for the truth of that experience in life and listen for and use those words that then are imbued with power. But in order to do that, one of the things that has to happen is we have to begin to tune into what that is. So he points out that in every challenge that we face, everything that goes on in our life, he says earlier, within every illness is an allness. With every insufficiency, there is all sufficiency. And so let's look at some of that in a way that we can move from those energies of insufficiency into an experience of all sufficiency. So what I'm going to invite you to do on the left-hand side of that little piece of paper, I want you to write down any problems or challenges that you have been praying about or would like to pray about, and any feelings that you have about that. On one column, on the left, just write down a few that you want to work with today. How's that? So write down, it's intentionally just a small piece of paper because I don't want you to blow it up into something big. So on your left-hand side, think about a problem that you have been praying about or you would like prayer about, some challenge or difficulty that you've been experiencing, and what your thoughts and feelings are about that. Just the energies about that, emotional. And take a second and do that. And we only need one or two, so we're going to go ahead and move on here. So you got one or two? So pick one. Pick one of those. And then in the middle column, what you want to do is, what I'm going to invite you to do is to think about that challenge, difficulty, or problem, and think about it in terms of how do you feel it ought to be? How do you feel it ought to be? What experience would you really like to have as opposed to that problem or challenge or difficulty? How would you like it to be? How would you like to be feeling about it? What would you like to be experiencing with that? And now, at the third column, I want you to write at the very top of the third column, through the power of God in me, and you can use whatever word for God you find good and comfortable and feels good and true for you. You can say the Christ within me, the presence of God within me, the Spirit within me, the divine within me, whatever feels like you really are connecting with that source that is your word for God. Through the presence and power of God within me, and then finish the statement, I am now, or I have now, or I experience now, and write what it is you feel ought to be. Write it as though it is so right now. You have just created yourself a wonderful prayer treatment. This is the essence of scientific prayer. Emmett Fox calls it the golden key. Stop focusing and thinking about the problem and think about God instead. Stop focusing on the challenge and put your energy and attention and consciousness into the possibilities. Put your energy into what can and is the truth of the circumstance and situation that's beyond the challenge or difficulty. Because it already exists. It already exists. It exists in energy, it exists in spirit, and part of what we're doing is we're not changing the universe to try and get it to fit into our way of looking and thinking. We're changing our awareness and our energy and our consciousness and our vibration so that we're in tune with the reality of that freedom that already exists for us. The health that is already there. The life of God that is already in us. The abundance that, not that God gives us abundance, the divine is the abundance. It is the experience and the expression of abundance. And so our work in scientific prayer is to shift our energy. You know, Abraham Hicks calls it pivoting. All we're doing is that little exercise of pivoting our thinking processes so that our energy and our vibration, our consciousness is in harmony and alignment with what is in spirit already, and that we are then attracting and producing thoughts and feelings and ideas and demonstrations of actions that will then draw us a little closer to that experience and draw that experience a little closer into our awareness and our reality. Pretty simple stuff if you think about it, isn't it? It's a simple process. It's a powerful process, and it can and it will change your life and your experiences in life. So I invite you this week, this is your homework for the week. You got that little piece of paper. If you need a bigger piece of paper, there is already a bigger piece of paper for you. So feel free to get a bigger piece of paper if you need to, and do the same practice, the same exercise. Write down all the stuff that's going on and all your energies about that. See and feel how it ought to be or how you would like to be experiencing it, and then put it in the form of the presence of the divine is now my life. The presence of God is absolute health in me. The presence of God is absolute abundance. Use your words. It's your own private, personal prayer treatment. It's there for you, and it is already manifesting for you just in this process right now. So that's our fun for the week. I hope you'll have some fun with that. Take some time to really pray with that, and you'll see that it will begin to shift things very quickly for you. Will you pray with me with that? Will you practice with that? Will you have fun with it? Yes. All right. Let's move into our meditation time. So as we settle into that stillness, that place within us of relaxation and peace, as we relax into that place within us of silence, we may notice that the kitten is still running around, but just notice it and know that we're not necessarily that kitten running around. We're the one that's watching, observing it, and seeing. We may notice and feel and see the surfer surfing on the waves. So just take a moment now and notice the surfer and be the wave. That the surfer of the mind is surfing on. And even more than that now, I invite you to imagine and see the ocean. And now see and feel the wave that you are moving and falling back into being that calm, still, peaceful ocean of spirit. Feeling the oneness, the vastness of that stillness, that silence. Be still and know oneness. Be still and know life. Be still and know I am. Be still. In this place of stillness, I notice if any thoughts are there, and just notice that they're simply thoughts. In this place of silence, it's not that there are no thoughts or activities, but I am not those thoughts and activities. In this place of stillness, I am. And in this place of stillness, I am aware that I'm not defined by my problems or challenges. I'm not created by them. But in reality, they're created by me. And so I tune myself into that which is the creative power and turn my awareness, my energy, my focus to that which is already the solution, the resolution, the good that exists. I breathe that in and allow it to be so for me. And give thanks, knowing that all is well. Take a nice deep breath now. Begin to stretch a little bit. Take another nice deep breath. Let your awareness come into this room, time and place. Take another deep breath and gently open your eyes. So it is.